Hello friends, welcome back to Daily Movie Recaps. A new movie recapped, every single day. Today, we will recap an American coming-of-age drama film, Mud, released in 2012. Spoilers up ahead, so watch out. Enjoy the recap. The movie begins at a river, where two teenagers, Ellis and Neckbone, are on a small boat. They arrive on an island, and find a medium-sized boat stuck in a tree. The boys climb the tree and explore the boat, dreaming about getting it down, fixing it up, and making it theirs. While searching the boat's cabin, they find some adult magazines, and some fresh food rations. Ellis realizes someone is living in the boat, and they go back to their boats. Upon arriving back at the shore, they discover footprints, and realize someone has visited their boat. Mud reveals himself, fishing and smoking a cigarette near their boat. The three have a chat, where Neckbone fully distrusts Mud, but Ellis becomes intrigued, particularly after they determine that they know some of the same people in town. Mud asks if the boys provide him with some food, then they can have the boat. Ellis agrees, and the boys get in their boat and head home. Ellis shows up at his dad's business later than he had intended. The two fill the back of their truck with fish, and head out on the town to make deliveries. After finishing the work, they both head back home. When his parents go to bed, Ellis fills his backpack with canned goods from their cupboard. The next day, the boys return to the island with some food for Mud. He is grateful, and the two groups swap stories. The boys notice that Mud keeps a gun in his pants, and become alarmed. But he assures them that they have nothing to fear from him. He goes on to tell them who he is waiting for on the island, a woman named Juniper. The next day, the two boys are sitting outside Neckbone's trailer, discussing the merits of Mud and the boat in the tree. Inside the trailer, music plays, as Neckbone's uncle gets intimate with his girlfriend. Their discussion is interrupted by Uncle's girlfriend, and she tells them to treat their women like a princess. Later that day, the boys are at a gas station across from a supermarket, where all the high school kids are hanging out in the parking lot. Eventually, an older boy gets a bit too physical with his girl, and she protests. Ellis comes flying across the street, and slugs the boy in the face. As the boy retreats, Ellis and the girl, May Pearl, exchange pleasant flirtations, despite the fact she is several years older. Their conversation is interrupted by Neckbone's sighting of a beautiful woman exiting a nearby hotel, and entering the supermarket. The two quickly follow, and watch her from within the store. Ellis notices a pair of swallow tattoos on her hands, and realizes that this is Mud's woman. The next day, back at home, Ellis hears a more heated conversation between his parents. Angered by that, he returns to the island with more rations, as well as news of Mud's woman. Mud is happy, and he writes a note for Ellis to deliver to her. The following morning, the boys devise a plan to find Juniper's motel room. They load up Neckbone's bike with fish, and start going door to door at the motel, pretending to sell fish. After knocking several rooms, they come across her motel room. The door opens, with a mafia-style gentleman named Carver, beating her up on the floor, asking for the location of Mud. Ellis rushes in, and immediately gets slugged in the face. Before Carver can finish with Ellis, Neckbone enters with 2 bags of fish, and tells him that they are just selling fish. After Carver leaves, Juniper is grateful for Ellis's help, and is shocked when he gives her the note from Mud. She also writes a reply note for Mud. The next day, the boys tell Mud about the incident. Mud insists them to be very careful, but to please keep an eye on her. Upon returning home from Mud, Ellis calls May, and asks her on a date, to which she agrees. They go to a bonfire later, and Ellis gives her a little bracelet, and they make small talk before she gives him a little kiss. Ellis believes he now has a girlfriend, and is quite pleased with himself. When he comes home, Ellis's father is drunk, and tells him that his mom wants a divorce. Ellis is devastated, and sneaks out of his bedroom, and takes the boat to see Mud. The two sit and talk about life and women in a very touching scene. And also, Mud gives Ellis lots of good advice about love. The following day, Ellis is on a car ride with his mother, and suddenly police pull them over, showing them a photo of the dangerous fugitive. Unfortunately, the fugitive is clearly Mud. Ellis and Neckbone race back to Mud, and ask for an explanation. Mud reveals that he killed a man who threw Juniper down a flight of stairs, causing her to lose her unborn child. The man who was beating Juniper that day at the motel, is the brother of the man whom Mud killed. And it is also revealed that the father of that man is a mafia don, who wants Mud killed. Mud then changes the plans, and tells them he needs the boat to escape. He asks for help for saving Juniper, and in return, he offers his gun to them. The boys agree. Mud then calls Tom Blankenship, a CIA assassin, and tells the boys that he should be able to provide aid. Once there, Tom berates Mud like a father to a son, telling him that the girl is the source of all his problems. Later on, The boys are back at the supermarket, starting to gather the requested supplies. They are interrupted by Carver, who starts to grill them on their relationship with Mud and Juniper. He offers some money to the kids, but Ellis declines. Then they reach Mud, and give him the supplies. But Neckbone's uncle has followed them, and is silently watching them from far. The next day, Tom sees Ellis is about to depart, and calls him. Ellis comes over, and Tom warns Ellis not to mess with Mud, but Ellis blows him off, and exits. Back on the island, Mud has had tremendous luck with the boat. It is out of the tree, but still needs more work. Mud tells Ellis that it is time to get Juniper out of there. They devise a plan together. Later on, Neckbone and his uncle are on a fishing boat. The uncle asks Neckbone if he was in any trouble, assuring him that he would help. Neckbone says everything is fine, playing it all very cool. Back on land, Ellis is at Juniper's motel room, and he tells her the plan to meet him behind the motel at 5 p.m. The following day, the boys are preparing for the great escape. They arrive at the motel, but find her room empty, so the boys ask the manager if they saw her leave. He tells them she went to a bar down the street. The boys reach the bar, and find Juniper hugging a man, who is kissing her on the neck. Juniper makes eye contact with Ellis, and a mildly shocked look appears on her face. The boys then tell Mud what they saw. Mud is devastated, but keeps it together. Mud then writes a letter to her, which Ellis delivers. After giving the letter, Ellis asks Juniper about why she did it, and she tells him that she just couldn't spend the rest of her life with him, on the run. Ellis is disgusted, and leaves. As he is walking away, he turns around, and looks through her window to see her crying on the bed. Back at the house, Ellis's father beats him for stealing a boat motor from the neighbor, which he gave to Mud. He screams at Ellis for stealing a man's livelihood, and demands he return the motor and apologize. Ellis says that he can't, instead he promises to pay for it. Ellis's mother steps in before things get more physical, and Ellis departs. Mad at the world, Ellis is driving through town on Neckbone's bike, when he sees May Pearl with the old boy. Ellis approaches, asking her why she hasn't called him back. The older boy interjects, and Ellis slugs him. This time, the older boy gets out of the car, and starts hitting Ellis, until May Pearl stops him as a crowd gathers. Ellis calls her his girlfriend, but May Pearl denies it, blaming the age difference. Later in the day, Ellis and Neckbone arrive at the island, and call Mud a coward, crying and saying that everything Mud told him about life and love was all a lie. Ellis then walks away, and Neckbone follows him. Suddenly, Ellis falls into a pit, and is knocked out. Neckbone runs to find Ellis covered in cottonmouth snakes. He calls for Mud, who throws his shirt back on, and runs to the pit. He takes Ellis up, and races him to Neckbone's boat. Arriving on shore, Mud takes Neckbone's bike, and speeds Ellis off to a hospital, taking him into the emergency room. After safely depositing Ellis, the attendants ask Mud for information, causing him to freak out at all the people looking at him. He runs out of the hospital. The attendant finds a picture of Mud on a flyer, and calls the police. Someone also informs the mafia father about Mud. Ellis is back from the hospital, and is recovering safely at home. His parents are loving to him, and all seems forgiven. Ellis has no idea how he got off the island or back home. His dad tells him that a strange man brought him in, and Ellis knows it was Mud. Back in town, Juniper smokes a cigarette on the balcony of her motel. She notices Mud watching from a distance. The two share a glance. She barely waves at him to acknowledge him. He waves back, as if saying goodbye, then walks off. Back on the island, Mud and Neckbone drop the boat in the water. She floats, and the job is done. Mud keeps his word, and surrenders his pistol to Neckbone, keeping the bullets to himself. He then asks Neckbone one last favor to meet Ellis, which Neckbone does without any hesitation. Mud sneaks into Ellis's bedroom, and lets him know that he loves him, and everything will be okay. Meanwhile, bad guys surround the house, and start firing at Mud. Mud hides Ellis under the bed, while his parents take shelter in a closet with a revolver. One assailant enters, but Mud knocks him out, and takes his weapon. Another thug appears from behind, and when he is about to shoot, Tom snipes him from a far distance. But after the first shot, the sniper gets jammed, and before Tom gets it to work, a thug appears out of nowhere, and shoots Mud, as Mud leaps into the river. Ellis sees Mud getting shot, and runs, screaming his name to the river's edge. A few hours later, police are now at the riverboat. The police call the unnamed mafia father, and inform him that his other son has been killed. He hangs his head in sadness in the hotel room. After some days, Ellis's dad picks him up, and then drops him off at his mom's new apartment. His dad says he will see him next week, and to be good to his mother, since this is hard on her too. After an undisclosed amount of time, we see Tom driving a boat down the river. He heads below deck, where a recovering Mud is laying face down with a bandage on his back, where he was shot. They both head above deck, where they see the boat is about to hit open water. Mud smiles, feeling that he is finally free from all the problems he had. Please leave a like or comment to let us know which movie you would like to watch next. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications. This way you'll never miss any movie recap again. Thanks for watching, and stay safe.